Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I am a member of the Student Doctor Network team. And on behalf of the team, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us this evening. Our guest tonight is Katie Owings from the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy, AACP. And Katie is going to talk with us for about the next hour about the process of applying to pharmacy school using the PharmCAS application process. I myself am a pharmacist, but it's been about 10 or so years since I used PharmCAS, so I'm interested to see how that process has changed over the last decade. Now, Katie is the Manager of Student Affairs at AACP, and her activities involve the management and oversight for the Pharmacy College Application Service, otherwise known as PharmCAS, assisting students throughout the application process, providing contemporary information about as well as promoting pharmacy education and careers to various audiences, and managing 2 pharmacy student-oriented scholarship programs, the Walmart Scholars Program and the Express Scripts Scholars Program. We really appreciate Katie being here with us this evening. We will start tonight with a presentation on navigating the PharmCAS application process, and then we'll transition to a question and answer at the end with whatever time we have left. Now, throughout Katie's presentation, if you find that questions are occurring to you, you can submit them in the question box, which you'll find in the control panel on the right side of your screen, and we'll get to as many of those at the end as we can. So at this point, I'd like to thank you again for joining us, and from here on out, I'm going to turn things over to our expert. Katie, welcome.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm going to go ahead and get started on navigating the PharmCAS application process. So to get us started here, we have 123 participating PharmD programs in the PharmCAS system, and that's out of 134 schools total. And then we also have 10 participating graduate programs in PharmCAS, and that is a new thing we're doing. So we are hoping more catch on and add on to this, but so far we have 2 that are kind of our initial group for this. And currently with PharmCAS, you can use one application to apply to any of these programs, whether it's PharmD and or graduate, and it's all with one set of materials. We also have a system called PharmDirect, and that is used only for our 0 through 6 programs, which means you're going in right out of high school, or schools with early assurance programs. And it says 3 there, but I actually got a contract for 1 more today, so we're actually up to 4 participating PharmDirect programs, and that is also a very new system we are using that is in its 2nd year. So this is just showing you some of the new programs that we have. For the first time for the 15-16 cycle, you'll see the new ones for the PharmD, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see the 10 schools that are now participants in the graduate programs. Now this slide, you can see the number of applicants per application. And you will see for the first time in over 10 years that we have had a serious dip in applicants. And some key factors that we consider at AACP when analyzing this dip are high school graduation rates, PCAT prep, PCAT test takers, and previous cycle performance. And all of those items are currently down. This is something that we think that we were predicting, and we knew this was going to happen at some point. We just did not know when. But again, on those applicant trends that we're seeing, it is something that is predicted to go back up again. But those are just some of the things that we use to see why this may be happening. So this profile of the 2015 entering class provides data on applicants who applied for admission and submitted all required application materials. So what you're seeing here is the preliminary data for 119 PharmCAS institutions only. So as you look at this data, please note that it represents the average for accepted PharmCAS applicants. And the information that's found within the parentheses is depicting the changes from the 2014 year. So as you'll see, most of the GPAs are going down, but this is most likely a result of a more holistic admissions approach that many schools have adopted. So reapplicants. The reapplicant feature is something we use for anyone who is submitted and paid to roll over into the next application cycle. And we use this feature to make it much easier on the student. You can add new coursework, but you don't have to enter already verified or pre-entered coursework. And this is a great perk because this can take around 3 weeks, depending on the time of year, for FharmCAS to verify that information. And the information that will not carry over is chosen because we want to see how the student has changed and how they are different. If you did not get into pharmacy school the year prior, it's things like the letters of reference and the personal statement that you want to be able to redo and get different references so that you can show how you've grown to schools. And then please note, this is one big thing to note here, is that just for the 2016-17 cycle, so not the one we're starting now, but in the following one, we will be transitioning to a new CAS 3.0 platform, and because of that, we will not have the reapplicant feature available just for that 1 year because some questions and formats will be different, so entries would not be transferable at that time. So again, that does not affect the 15-16 application cycle that just opened on July 15th, but for the 16-17, if you are looking to apply again at that time frame, just something to keep in mind. This chart is showing basically the submission of documents to FharmCAS and the submission of documents to the school. So the top yellow box is everything that would be sent directly to FharmCAS, and that's going to include things like the application itself, PCAT and TOEFL scores, and the application fee. And then the bottom green box is showing you what will go directly to the school. Of course, that's the supplemental application if they require one, the supplemental fee, and other tests. Other tests are things like AP, GRE, and other ones along those lines. Transcripts are needed for every institution attended, even if transfer credits appear on another transcript. And this is something you want to make sure you get in right the first time, because if you don't put all your schools in there, all your transcripts, your application will be undelivered, and then you will then have to re-enter that, re-enter your coursework, get your transcripts in, and then it's going to start the verification process over. So it's certainly easier to do it from the get-go. The transcript deadline is not enforced by FharmCAS. The school will make the call if the transcript is late, so FharmCAS will still verify it even after the deadline is passed, and it's up to the school to make the determination on if they want to still accept you. The transcript request form is recommended. It's a pre-populated form that makes it very easy for FharmCAS and the student. And lastly, those who matriculate will need to request that official transcripts be sent directly to your institution for your spring and summer grades. For international coursework, there are 3 different options that schools may have available. The first one would be the Foreign Transcript Evaluation Report, and that's something that would be sent directly to FharmCAS. Secondly, would be an original foreign transcript that would be sent directly to the institution to which you are applying. And the third option is neither, and that would be if the school you're applying to doesn't consider foreign applicants at all, then this would not apply to them. So if required by the school, the applicant arranges for the course-by-course foreign transcript evaluation report to be sent directly to FharmCAS. Currently, FharmCAS will accept any foreign transcript company, but we do tell students to pay close attention if the school they're applying to only accepts a certain one. WES is one of the most common ones we see out there, but again, just make sure the school you're applying to does accept that one. And then foreign transcript reports are not required for study abroad courses if they do appear on the U.S. transcript. So PCAT and TOEFL scores are accepted electronically, and they are sent directly to FharmCAS. And GRE, SAT, ACT, AP, and other test scores are self-reported by the applicants and are sent directly to the institution. On to references. References are, of course, about the applicant's characteristics and character, like honesty and integrity, and there can be up to 4 per applicant. And sometimes you might need to double-check when things are submitted because both or multiple reference letters may be in the composite or committee letter. FharmCAS will count the composite or committee reference as 1 reference. However, these types of letters may be counted as more than 1 reference by your institution. You would just need to check. And the FharmCAS reference form includes general questions, a rating of characteristics, and a section for reference writers to enter general comments about the applicant. And it is required for the reference to be complete to have all of these components. Continuing with the ELOR process, first off, make sure that you talk to your references in advance. You don't want them to be surprised to receive this email. You want them to be expecting it. One piece of advice that we give is it might be good to additionally provide your reference writers with your resume or CV, with your personal statement or similar items along those lines, because the more they know, the better. The more information they have, the better they're going to be able to evaluate you and write a worthy recommendation for you. And additionally, the PharmCAS instructions that you'll find on the PharmCAS website show you the rubric for the evaluation that you might find helpful to review in advance as well, and it's something you could also share with the reference writers as well if you prefer to as well. And once students click Save with their reference contact information, an email automatically sends. So that's one thing to remember. The second you put them in there and click Send, it goes to them. So students should alert evaluators to watch for an automated email from PharmCAS, and the subject line would be Student Reference PharmCAS, : and then your name. And this email will also contain login instructions for that evaluator. And as noted before, the evaluator is asked to fill out a rubric and then can upload documents as well. The student will also receive a copy of the message that's sent to the evaluator, and the student will see when the evaluation is received in Applicant Portal. Therefore, you know if an evaluation has been completed, and you know if it's not been completed. So the student can edit evaluators until the reference submission, but there are no changes allowed after an evaluation is complete. So once every 3 weeks, you can send a reminder to a reference writer as well if needed. You can continue, if you do continue to get no response, then it might be best to edit your evaluator and change them, but hopefully that's not something that will happen. It's in the system in case that's needed. And then again, we mentioned this before, but committee letters are counted by PharmCAS as just one letter. And all in all, the schools enforce the deadlines. PharmCAS will accept letters of reference whenever they come in, but schools will be the ones to determine if they are late or not. The PharmCAS application fee is $150 to apply to one program, and that's whether it's graduate or PharmD. It's even across the board. And then it's $55 for each additional program. They accept credit card or money order. And one thing to always know is there are no refunds for withdrawn applications. So if you do apply, you do pay the fee, it is going to go through. Fee waivers can be found on the PharmCAS website under Forms and Printable Documents, and that's in the Preparing to Apply section. And these are on a first-come, first-served basis. We offer 532 of these per year, and applicants are given 45 business days to use these, and if not, then they're given to the next person in line. On to the application deadlines. The deadlines are always the first of every month, except when the application deadline falls on a weekend or holiday, and then the next business day is automatically the deadline. For instance, January is always the first Monday after the first because the first is always a holiday. These are the dates in which an application must be submitted. Schools can then make the decision regarding if this needs to be the date by which a transcript is in as well, because sometimes it can be out of the student's control, so we do let the school decide. And then as noted in the bottom, you should allow up to 4 to 5 weeks for PharmCAS processing. However, last year, even during the busiest times, PharmCAS never exceeded 14 business days, which is approximately 3 weeks to process an application. The early decision deadline will always be the day after Labor Day. This year it's a little bit later, it's September 8th. And this is just an interesting fact, but in 2013-14 we had 42 participating early decision institutions. In 14-15 we had 59 participating early decision institutions, and now for 15-16 we're actually up to 85 early decision institutions. So this is something that we continually see increasing numbers with, because schools like to know if a student is 100% into that school, they would love to accept you early, and then that would certainly reduce the amount of competing offers between pharmacy schools later on. So the reporting deadline for schools is always the second to last Friday in October. So this year it's October 23rd. So if your application is complete and a school does not make a decision on your application by October 23rd, then on October 26th, which is the following Monday, PharmCAS will automatically release your application from early decision, and then you can apply to other schools. We do it right in that time frame because the first actual PharmCAS deadline is at the beginning of November, so that gives you a little bit of time before that if you want to make those schools deadlines. So this slide is just explaining what complete means to us, and to us is AACP and PharmCAS. Complete is when your transcripts from all institutions attended are in, and when your application fee is paid. So it's after this complete stage that applications start to be verified. And verified is what a school needs to be able to begin reviewing you and interviewing applicants. So until everything is in and until your application is completely there, a school cannot, they can reach out to you and contact you with information, but they cannot start reviewing you or ask you to come in for any kind of interview. So what is transcript verification? It is line-by-line, course-by-course verification between the applicant reported course history and your official transcripts. Applicants report their courses from the transcript, and PharmCAS does the grade and credit conversions, which become available in PharmCAS for the schools to review. Again, this is also the time where, if they find that you have missed a transcript or a school attended is missed, you would then become unverified. You would receive a message from the PharmCAS system that something needs to be added, and until you added that, whatever was missing back in, then the verification process would start over again. After you initially submit your PharmCAS application, you may need to update your college course history to reflect newly completed or planned in progress courses. And you can update your courses online during what PharmCAS calls the academic update window. There are 2 academic updates, one in the fall, one in the spring. And generally the fall academic update is December 15th through February 15th, unless one of those days is a Saturday, and we adjust accordingly. And generally, spring academic update is April 15th to when we close PharmCAS, which is typically the last day in June. In spring AU, or academic update, would typically only be for students that a school plans to matriculate. Otherwise, that is not something you would have to do. The Applicant Code of Conduct. So the Applicant Code of Conduct is very interesting, and the biggest thing that I just want you guys to note here is that the most common violations we see are plagiarism in your personal statement, falsifying transcripts or providing false information on your application, and unprofessional behavior or conduct. And that might happen in the application process. It might happen when a student is on their interview at the school. We've seen all sorts of cases. So we at AACP and PharmCAS have a conduct committee, and they meet monthly to go over all reported cases that we have, and they will determine a sanction for those cases. The sanctions will range from anything from having to sit out the current application cycle, but you can reapply in the future, to not being eligible to ever apply again through PharmCAS. That's certainly an extreme case for some of the more extreme situations we see. One of the most common for a high amount of plagiarism, there's no set percentage, but I'd say the most common sanction is that they would sit out that current application cycle and then be able to reapply again the next year. Turnitin is the similarity reporting software that we use at PharmCAS. It's a paid-for service that scours the web to find any matches between a submitted essay and the web. We also have a frequently asked questions provided for the students on the PharmCAS website, and it displays the most common sites we see, what plagiarism is, and how to prevent it. And some of those sites are things like studential.com, pharmacyessays.com. They're very common sites out there that you see. There's tons of sample essays on them, and we see them, a lot of them, time and time again. So when you write your essay, just write from your personal experiences. The interview no-show policy was newly added last cycle. This is not something that would be reported as a conduct violation that would go through the committee, but I'm going to go through the steps of what would happen. Cancellations must be communicated 1 business day prior to the scheduled interview, and cancellation notice must be reported to the school by 12 noon, and that's local time zone of the school, on the business day prior to that interview. And of course, business days are considered Monday through Friday. Any late cancellation or no-show will have a note added in the PharmCAS system, and this will be viewable by all pharmacy degree programs that you have or will apply to. and it says unprofessional behavior, interview, no-show. With that information, schools and colleges of pharmacy will independently decide if this is information relevant to their application process and on what course of action they choose to take with this information. Again, they may or may not take it into account, but it is up to them as a school to decide. And of course, emergency situations are exempt from this policy. It's just better if you have an interview and for any reason you can't make it, just let the school know. Then that saves their time and your time. The centralized criminal background check is a program that's optional to use from our pharmacy schools, but the majority of them do use this process. Students currently only pay $25, and AACP will cover the remainder of the cost, which is $87 per person. And we do the criminal background check during the admissions process because it's much better to identify a student up front than after taking their admission money. And it's much easier for schools then to rescind an offer rather than dismiss a student. And I'm sure as students you would agree it's better to know early on. The drug screening process is $53 per student, and this is used by a lot of our pharmacy schools, but not as heavily as the centralized criminal background check. And we're telling you all of these costs in advance so that you can budget in advance, just things that you'll know will be coming your way. So on to PharmCAS customer support. Email is definitely the best option, and PharmCAS asks that you allow 2 business days max to hear a response from their email, which is info@farmcast.org. When you do use their call line, which you can see there, they've given me some stats here, and it's 2 minutes is the average wait time, and the call abandonment has been down by 20%. We think a lot of this has to do with the fact that we have instituted a secret shopper program. So we have secret shoppers make accounts and they make mistakes and will contact customer service and provide us feedback on their experiences. So the customer service team, knowing this, has definitely stepped up their game to try to provide applicants with much better customer service in general. And then we also do offer some frequently asked questions on the PharmCAS website, and this is a great resource to use. Pretty much any section of the application or any process that you might be going through in the PharmCAS application that you have a question on, if you go to farmcast.org, up in the right-hand top corner, there's something called the Help Center, and it breaks down every part of it with more questions than you can imagine, and probably anything you want would be answered there. You can, of course, still email, but I think that's a great place to start. And applicants can also check their online status and see what may be the holdup on their application. So if you sign into if you have submitted everything or you think you've submitted everything and you have still not heard if you're verified or haven't heard from schools, if you log into your PharmCAS application, you'll be able to see your online status, and maybe something was undelivered, maybe a reference is not fully in yet, something along those lines, but you'll be able to see exactly what the holdup is. And then lastly, PharmCAS is on both PharmCAS on Facebook and Twitter to answer any questions you might have as well. So again, email is probably the best option, but all of those are monitored and all of those will get you an answer. So with that, I'm just going to leave you with these 2 resources. AACP.org/pharmacycareers will bring you to the Student Center on our website. There's some very helpful information on here, some about careers in general, and the pharmacy school admission requirements page is one that you might find extremely beneficial. What we have there on that page at the very bottom, there's the prerequisites for every single school that they've reported. So it's a great resource to go by and see what is required across the board, what is required for this school in particular. Additionally, we have these tables. Tables 1 through 7 will give you the structures of every PharmD program, the stats and statistics of their programs, and it's kind of a great one-stop shop to get all of that information that you might be looking for ahead of time as you're choosing a pharmacy school to apply to. And then, of course, farmcast.org, which we've talked about before. You have the Help Center, which is great for getting you through the application process, and additionally, you have the PharmCAS School Directory. There is one for both PharmD programs and graduate programs, and this is a great place where you can actually filter based on areas of the country, based on when their program deadline is, based on if they participate in early decision. You can use all sorts of filters like this, and it will adjust accordingly to give you the schools that fit your needs, public versus private and so on. So it would be one other great resource to have. And of course, if you guys have any questions, you can always reach out directly to me or PharmCast as well to get most of those answers too.